Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out, where we bring on absolutely awesome business owners and we talk about the cool shit that they've done, how they got into the industry, and what they have going on moving forward. Today, we brought in Drewby Wilson with Call the Damn Lead. Some of you may know him, but I'm going to let him do an introduction either way.
Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I am Drewby, the self-proclaimed meme lord. So if you can't see it on the camera and you're just listening, I have meme lord tattooed across my knuckles. Um, Mostly because I'm an idiot, but also because I love memes and I love sales, and that's the thing that I'm here to help you guys with today. Because ultimately, sales is a skill that has allowed me to change my life, and now I get the blessing of helping small business owners like yourself figure out all the broken parts of your current system so that you can scale profitably.
For sure. And talking to a bunch of owners, that is an issue that many of us have. Speaking on my own behalf, because I definitely employ you for myself. I'm a salesperson, right? I enjoy selling. What I don't enjoy doing is delving into the systems behind the selling process and trying to figure out like why is this broken, right? I'm one of those like raging toddlers that's just like it's broke, fix it now. Like I don't want to deal with this. So, and that's a lot of owners out there, right? Because there's 99 other things that you have going on. So it's important to have people in your life that can just go, okay, here, let's put a little band-aid on it, make the boo-boo better. Here you go, right?
Well, and to your point, Paul, I think most of the small business owners and entrepreneurs, especially the ones you and I chat with most often, they were a top producer in some other organization. They've been a salesperson. Like they understand that all of this stuff should work. And also, they recognize that it's not the best use of their time to try to figure out all the back end technology. Because at the end of the day, as a business owner, your job is to grow the brand and grow the revenue. Everything else can be delegated and figured out inside the business. And that's ultimately where a lot of guys will bring me in a year, 2 years into the business because they've just created such a mess. They're making money, but it's just a big, scattered, chaotic mess in the back end. And so, one of my favorite parts about what I get to do is usually we're not coming in and being like, hey, we need to go spend a lot more money on marketing. It's like, hey, let's go and recoup some of the expenses you've already paid in the last 6 to 12 months using what's already in here. Because odds are, if we go through and we audit the system and we look at everything, 90-ish% of the leads that you've gotten in the last 6 to 12 months were not contacted enough and have not closed, which means that I don't know how much you're paying per lead, but you probably got a lot of marketing expense out there that you're not being able to turn into any real ROI. And so why not go in and just grab that low hanging fruit? I mean, in any business, the fast path to cash is the one that we're always looking for. And to me, it's right there in your database.
For sure. What's fascinating to me is, a lot of owners, um, depending on their markets, right? Like you talk to some people, there could be two very almost identical companies in the same market. And one of them's like, man, the phones aren't ringing. Our guys are busy. I had to send guys home. And then just like 30 minutes down the road from him, I got another guy that's like, I can't keep up. We got too many leads. We got too much going on. And when you actually pull back the curtains, the guys that are always busy have figured this out, right? Is like they know how to re-engage their own database. They know how to use that to then target different demographics of like database or potential sales. But they've got the processes dialed in for all of this. Hey, we're going into shoulder season. We're going to trigger these for this time of year. Hey, it's busy season, so we're going to go into this workflow. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to push that, right? The guys that struggle, it's like navigating a ship and you put a blindfold on your eyes and you don't have a map and you don't have a compass and you don't know how to read the stars, right? I mean, that's literally what some of these guys are doing. They're just like, fuck, let's go. Let's just go do this, right? Like, let's dive in and just figure it out as we go. And then you figure
Well,
it out to 3.5 million and then you hit a wall and you go, crap, I don't know what to do, right?
I think I think that's the hardest part is a lot of times the processes exist, but it's in your head. You've gotten so used to doing it that way that it's this is the way that we do it, but there's no clear explanation of why, what, how, and what happens if we deviate from said process. Because I think that's a big part of why a lot of people don't take it as seriously as they should, because there's not enough consequence in terms of, hey, if you don't do this, X is going to happen. And it's because there's no consequence that it all starts with awareness. And one of the first conversations I have with every single business owner is, hey, man, peel open the hood. Let's look at the engine of this thing. What's driving this bad boy? Because ultimately, it could just be one or two small little things that we have to tweak and it'll fire up and run like it, was brand new. Or we may have to go in and completely tear this whole thing apart and start from zero, but we don't know until we get under the hood and look at it. And 9 times out of 10, the first thing I ask is, okay, cool, walk me through your follow up process. And they're like, yeah, we follow up. And I'm like, yeah. But when? And what are you saying? And what mediums are you using? And when do you segment them into a different list or a phase of the follow-up process? And those guys just look at me like a deer in the headlights. And I go, okay, now tell me about when you go to do a job. What does your, like, when you show up on a job site, what happens? And they're boom, 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 rattle it off just like clockwork. And I say, this is what you need to be able to do with your sales process. You need to understand literally from the moment someone expresses any sort of interest in what you have going on, you need to have a sequence in place so that you can nurture them to the point of having a conversation first, because ultimately we want to qualify or disqualify, right? Not every lead in your database is a good piece of business. So we have to have a conversation first. And we have to have a good set of boundaries in place to qualify or disqualify, because Paul, how many people out there are spending hours on the phone with the wrong prospects?
I know we have been, right? I know it took a while to figure that out in my own business of who is the right prospect, who do I want to deal with, right? Because part of it is when you start a business, you just literally will just lay down for whoever walks in the door and shows you interest, right? You're just like, oh, yay. Like the dog that an owner gets home and you're just like, oh, you're here. Awesome. Great. Like, cool. Right. But, maybe you don't like the treat that they have in their hand, and that's phases that you have to run through as an owner. Speaking from my own experience, I think one of the things that I took for value when you came in was like, I had a process built kind of for my own chaotic way that I did things. But then as I was starting to hire salespeople and going, man, why aren't salespeople like doing well? And then I finally was able to take a real true step back and actually look at it and go, oh, like this is pure chaos. Like, how can I expect the salesperson to step into the system and have any idea of what's going on? What does the lead flow look like? Who have I talked to? Who isn't a good lead? Who has been talked to and not, qualified? Who have we signed? All that kind of stuff. And that's the same way with a lot of these guys. They just built it for whatever's comfortable for themselves. They hire somebody to come in and work for them, and then they get mad at that person for not performing, when in reality, it's like, well, what worked for you, it worked for you, right? Like, isn't going to work for an actual sales team. And more likely than not, you actually don't even know your true metrics that you should be following. But you've been to all these coaching groups and you've been in these masterminds, and everybody's like, KPI, KPI, KPI. KPIs are great, but KPIs are bullshit if you don't know what you're actually looking at or should be looking at.
All right, I'm gonna say something a little bit spicy here, but KPIs is a hot topic because it's a great way for people to use a vanity metric.
100%.
And so this is why, and again, we only have so much time, so we can't go into like the super weeds of this, but knowing your numbers is really, really key. And again, that's why you and I had this conversation when we started. It was like, okay, well, we need to know how many leads come in, how many of them turn into a conversation. Of those conversations, how many are qualified? Of the qualified, how many set to the next conversation? So there's like layers upon layers of this process, because if you understand each of those, then you can find what part is broken. And so what's interesting about business owners that we work with a lot of times, you and I especially, is they have, okay, yeah, I'm going to hire a sales guy. Sales is a pretty vague terminology of what you do. And so it's kind of like, hey, I'm hiring a sales guy. I expect him to do sales. If you're in sales, you know sales, right? Everybody knows how to do sales. Well, hey, you're a human. You know how to brush your teeth, right? Tell me how you brush your teeth. It's like, well, I just pull the thing out, I throw some toothpaste on there, and I rip away. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa! You don't rinse the thing first? Like, there's poop particles on there, bro. What are you doing? Like, but brushing teeth is brushing teeth, right? Everybody does it the same way. No, sales is not sales. Not everybody does sales the same way. And because there are 9,677 gurus on the internet right now that will tell you the best way to make sales with their proprietary systems and all their fancy letters and all that shit, there is no one way to make sales. And unfortunately, as a small business owner, the passion, the knowledge, the experience that you have makes you a significantly different salesperson than someone you're going to bring onto the team that has none of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have to differentiate and separate yourself from the, hey man, I've done it this way my whole life, this is how I know it works, to the, it works for me, but it ain't going to work for everybody.
Correct. No, I 100% agree with that. And having worked in automotive for years, right? And, I've been a GM, I've been a sales manager, I've been a sales director for large companies. Like, I'm not an inexperienced sales leader or a manager, right? Which is why I appreciate these conversations, because I push back on trainers in all of these industries all the time, because they always come in and want to do a one size fits all training for your salespeople. And I'm like, yeah, but like George over here is not good at cold calling, but he's really, really good at fresh ups, or he's really, really good at mining his database and coming in with referrals. So why would I be wanting to punish him for not making enough cold calls when that's not his strength? But Sheila crushes cold calls. So she should actually be taking more of the cold calls. We should be helping George build out more of a referral and a warm lead system, right? And understanding, like, you position your salespeople to succeed off of their strengths. And that's, as a leader, I think one of the things we struggle with. As an owner, speaking for myself, right? Like, that was one of my first issues when I first started hiring salespeople was, stepping back into more of my manager mindset and pulling myself out of the owner mindset of like, we just got to sell no matter what, we need revenue coming in, blah, 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 follow this process. And it's a different mentality. So like, absolutely. So those guys that have come from those high roles, maybe they've managed teams, maybe they've done this stuff, right? Like, being able to understand when and how you need to step back and allow process development for the person you hired and understand that person's strengths and weaknesses is going to open up doors. But again, you can't do any of that if your entire process is broken and you refuse to address it. I mean, that's just the fact.
And it's being willing to say, man, I don't know it all. That's the hardest thing for most business owners, because we're so stubborn and pig-headed and like goal-oriented that I don't care. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. It's fine. But will you? And to your point of the, why are you trying to force someone to get better at a skill when they could be spending that time, energy, and effort on the skill that they're really great at? And you could take that away from someone else who's spending a lot of time on it that's like, this is miserable. How many times have you seen a sales team where some fancy guy, some consultant comes in and it's like, okay, I got this whole plan, we're going to run this play, and all of a sudden all the team players, the people that have like been successful, they just tank because they're like, what is this? This is like, what are you doing here? And you're like, I'm a team player, so I'm going to follow the process, but I feel like I'm jumping off the ship myself. Like I'm hanging myself here with this process, knowing damn well that it's not going to work for me. That's not my style. That's not how I sell. And genuinely, like, this is what I love about sales and also hate about leadership is people are people. And someone today could be in a certain kind of mood and like you really enjoy being around them. And then, I don't know, they go home and they drop their ice cream cone at dinner. And tomorrow they're just pissed. And there's nothing you can do to get them out of that mood because they've got to work through it themselves. But you're the leader and you still got to find a way to train this person. And you got to get them to be confident when they get on the phone, even though every time they pick it up, they're like, that damn ice cream cone. And you're just like, bro, it was an ice cream cone. Like, here's $5. I'll go buy you one. But that's not the point. The point is, in that moment, they had an experience that caused something to trigger them to go down a certain emotional path. Your prospects
100%.
are in the same thing. They have shit going on too. And this is where it gets the balance of understanding how to communicate internally, externally, and throughout your community.
Right. And, I think part of that process is knowing when do you push, when do you set back. Do you guys have standards in place for this thing, or is your process so rigid that if a sales rep comes back from a job and is like, yeah, I wasn't able to, extend or add on anything due to this, and this, and you don't trust their intuition enough, and your process is so rigid that you are now punishing them, and potentially now you get on the phone and you try to hard close that client and you just push that client away and now you get a bad review from it, right? Like, so I think there's always a fine line in everything, right? I tend to be a lot more trusting than I probably should be. I'm doing a better job of verifying what I am trusting with stuff. But also, like, at the end of the day, man, like, I've made a bunch of calls with these people. Like, I know how it goes day to day. I know what some of these owners are going through. I understand that sometimes when you are slugging through a stressful time in your life, like, the last thing you want is some salesperson to, like, try to hard sell you into something that you're just not ready to. You maybe know you need it in the back of your mind. You're not ready to acknowledge that you need it yet, and you're not ready to make that decision to go forward. And the last thing that you want is somebody that is just obnoxiously pounding on you to just sign up today. Like, I've been there as an owner too with salespeople where they're just like hound me, and I'm just like, bro, like, stop, or I'm going to put you on do not disturb. I'm going to report you as spam. Like, I told you, when I'm ready to make a decision, I'll reach out, and that is what it is. I don't mean any disrespect by that. It's just I got so much shit going on in my head right now. I don't want to make a decision. Honestly, that's really what it is. So allow your sales team that flexibility. But again, inside of a functioning system and processes that allow for that, that's the only way for that to exist, because you at least know how to look at and score those sales conversations. But you also are good at empowering your salespeople to just, in some ways, trust their gut, right?
It's and this is what you said earlier in terms of expectations and understanding the metrics, because you should have a baseline, right? And in your company, there should be a set number of outreaches or conversations or offers made on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, because that's what the math never lies. Ultimately, if you want to make more sales, you have to talk to more people and make more offers. Like, that's the end all be all of it. And also, as you're working through the process, you can't look at it like a day trader, because you may have a 3 to 4 day slump where you're making a lot of calls and having a lot of conversations, but you're not closing a lot of deals. You might be planting a lot of seeds though. However, as a manager, if you go to your sales guy and you're like, hey man, it's been 4 days since you closed a deal, you need to put some money on there. You need to get some numbers on the board. And it's like, man, I'm working them, boss. I got this. Like, I got 19 deals in the pipeline right now. Like, I just got to get them closed. And you're hounding it like, doesn't matter. Get them closed. Do whatever you got to do. If you go turn on your commission breath and you're like, hey man, I'm calling because my boss is really riding my ass and I got to get this deal done. Like, they don't care. No one cares about your shit. No one cares about your boss. And you're just causing these guys more stress than necessary. So zoom out a little bit. It's like, all right, well, hey man, Monday through Wednesday, dude looked like he wasn't doing shit. Like, I see he's making the calls, but he ain't closing no deals. And then Friday, all of a sudden, you just see the cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Now, when you've zoomed out, you realize, hey, it took a little bit of time going down so that you could get back on the upslope. And this is where sales professionals, business owners, we're all guilty of this, is we'll ride that downslope and we will just crash and burn before we stop and try to put our brakes on and go, hold on, what's going on here? What do I need to adjust? Did I miss a turn? Did I miss a path somewhere? Like, what am I doing that's causing me to continue this downward momentum? And it goes back to that baseline. Because, like, if you smash through the ice on the lake as you're coming down the hill, like, yeah, you get into that cold water, that's negative, bad territory. But if you can be aware of, like, hey, where I'm aiming so I don't hit the lake, that's your baseline, right? Hey, if I make a certain number of calls, if I have a certain number of conversations, statistically, I cannot fail. And that's
Yeah.
the thing that's so important about all of this, is just understanding how to put it together in a way as a business owner that creates clarity and confidence in the entire system.
Right. Just because your coach has, or your coach, your mentor, your buddy down the road has an idea of what's important to them to look at, it's important to understand what's important for you to look at as well, right? Because the data that I like to look at isn't always the data that somebody that would come into my business as a coach or a mentor would be like, hey, you need to look at this, and I think one of the things that, I get frustrated with when I talk to, experts or that kind of stuff is like, they're just like, well, no, you need to look at this. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, well, this, and this. I'm like, but that doesn't pertain to why this is important to me. This metric's actually more important to me, and here's why. And they just keep going back to like their standard set of things. And if you're in any of these group coaching, if you're in any of these programs, like listen to the guys that actually drive the results and have the result history to prove it by how they engage with other companies, the referral sources, the reviews, like what actually happens when that person comes in and starts working with the business. What is their past from, right? Did they have good results as a salesperson? And to be fair, sometimes it doesn't matter if they didn't have good results directly as a salesperson. Maybe they drove really good results as a sales manager overseeing a sales team, right? Because those two things don't always envelop each other either. A very good top performing salesperson, I would say almost never, very rarely makes a very good manager, in my opinion. That's just me, but I could be wrong there. But
no,
know your own stuff.
It's called the Peters principle. It's when you get promoted past your point of expertise. And most top sales guys, they are solo lone wolf type. They just go out and they get it. They don't like waiting for people. Like they can be a team player, but for the most part, they're just trying to do their thing. You thrust them into having to take care of other people and get them on board, and it is just an absolute nightmare. I typically see it's your mid-level producer that's a great team player that's always finding the time to help everybody else, which is why they're not typically at the top of the charts. Those are the guys that make great leaders because they understand the process enough to produce, but they're also helping others produce. And when you can isolate that skill set, man, it does make a big difference in a business.
For sure. Well, man, I don't want to take too much of your time up here today. I appreciate the drop of knowledge that you had here. If anybody wants to reach out and engage with you, which I will personally endorse Drewby, he's done a fantastic job of helping our company deconstruct the chaos that I personally created. I will take full responsibility for the mess that I made. I was literally like a toddler that was given a Mountain Dew and a pixie stick and then left alone with a box of permanent markers and mud. And you can imagine how that goes. But I will personally endorse what he's done for our company, the clarity he's brought to us. But if people want to reach out to you, man, what's the best way for them to find us? And then I also know you got some pretty awesome books that are coming out too.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And I will 100% say thank you again for that kind word that you gave for us, man. I love working with you and the team. What I love about it is you actually implement the things that we talk about. It's not just all talk. You actually do the things, which is why you're seeing such great results and such growth, which is a testament to you. So if you guys enjoyed the episode, maybe you got something valuable from this, if you learned something, or maybe even if you just think it was absolute trash and you want to hate on it, go share it on social media. Tag me, tag Paul, whatever channel you hang out on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're all there. Tag at Call the Damn Leads. 2 reasons. 1, it's going to let me and Paul know that you got something out of this, whether you liked it or hated it. We're okay with either. And it's going to let me and my team know that you did actually follow directions, and I've got some cool stuff that I'd love to share with you, maybe a free book or two, because I'm always putting some value out there and trying to help other professionals really get dialed in. Because the stuff isn't as difficult as you make it out to be. You just don't know what you don't know yet. And so beyond that, if you guys want to check out all our other content, go to callthedamnleads.com. We have multiple books. We have training. We have swag, maybe hats, keychains, shirts. Maybe you just need to throw some shit on your guy's desk and remind them to call the damn leads. We got that for you. And yeah, man, we've got a podcast that we're turning into a book series. So be on the lookout for Lessons from the Boiler Room. That's going to be here in the next couple of months, maybe even by the time this episode has come out. So keep your eyes peeled and give us a shout.
Knowing how fast you produce books and get stuff out, I would not be shocked if it was out before I got this all figured out and posted. Thank you, man. I appreciate your time. For all the listeners out there, give us a like, give us a follow, share this content, right? This is content that I put together because I really wanted to share perspectives and stories of just people out there doing cool shit, their backgrounds, what got them going, and do what we can do to help other business owners figure out their problems, find their passions, and be better people in general. So thanks for following this episode of Roll Up, Roll Out. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.